Ida dans die Kaubaka.
You know, there is a church where the Germans said people should come to the church and we will pray. And my people closed their eyes to pray. But they never said that last amen. Because the moment they closed their eyes, they were all shot in that church. Even if I pray, I don't close my eyes. They brought the Christianity, they brought all these churches, but today they also have the land.
%80 of my people were wiped off the face of my motherland on a premeditated basis after an officially proclaimed execution order was issued.
The Germans, they murdered and they killed my people. And the only reason why they killed and murdered my people was because of land.
Visuals. Struggles of the smallest Namibian tribe's descendants have been put under the spotlight in a feature-length documentary called Skulls of My People. The film, that's a brainchild of Vincent Moloi, takes us on a journey of the Herero people as they fight to retrieve the skulls of their people that were taken for scientific purposes during the Herero and German War in the 1900s. To shed more on this, we are joined in the studio by one of the film's producers, Lodi Matsetela. Lodi, thank you very much for joining me. You can't watch even that trailer without feeling some kind of reaction.
Yeah. It's a very heavy story to take on, and Vincent had already been with the project for close to 4 years before we joined and became partners and came on board as producers, and it took us another 3 to 4 years to finish it. Because, and I remember speaking to him when he started, and halfway through the process, and it had drained him emotionally, because a lot of the time when you're beginning, it's just research and just, understanding the context from every single angle, and it's a heavy story. So
I was quite fortunate this week, and I won't mention the radio station, but I was quite fortunate to listen to that full interview with Zanya. This story, though, is not a well-known story by South Africans, and yet has impacted this community so much that years later they are trying to retrieve those skulls and those family members and friends. How did Vincent stumble onto this story in the first place?
He was in Namibia shooting another project. In fact, he said, I think it was shooting for a Lusophone broadcaster, I don't remember, and that's how he came across the story. And then he just started investigating further and kept going back to Namibia, and that's when he met, I think the interview you're referring to, we had one of the lead characters from the film in South Africa on Tuesday, because
for the Rapid Line
Film we had the African premiere for the film festival, for the film at the Rapid Line Film Festival, and we brought through the paramount chief of the Herero people, as well as Ochiwa, who is one of the main characters in the film herself. And she's one of the main characters because she is one of the activists lobbying for the return of the skulls to Namibia, but they're also lobbying for the German government to acknowledge that a massacre actually took place. And they're asking for reparations.
And I can only imagine when those reparations are not given, or that process is not complete, that when you tell a story, it's an open wound still. It is, apart from being emotive, it's a story that I'm sure, I don't know how many discussions you've had with South Africans, we don't know that story, even though it happened at such a large scale.
It's not even just South Africans. I guess it makes sense because they are our neighbors. We should
our
know.
immediate neighbors. Yeah.
You know, and I don't think we know enough about just SADC in general. I don't think we really understand the Zimbabwean revolution, what happened in Botswana, what happened in Mozambique. We're not familiar. But this is a story that needed to be told because it has the implications of it. When it happened, so they massacred the majority of the Herero people. Then they put them in concentration camps that were the precursors to what then took place in 1945, or from the early 1930s into 45 in Germany when the Holocaust took place. So there's a lot that makes the story not just African, but international. There are a lot of stories like that. I mean, that's the beauty of documentary. We're meant to unearth these stories, not just tell them, because this story has maybe a couple of documentaries made, but by European filmmakers.
It's the first time it's really by an African.
It's the first time, and it's not just historical, it's personal because it's speaking to the plight of the Herero people today.
Was that the approach that you guys took as a team that Vincent led? Was it you wanted to not just tell something that feels like it's history, but that it's still a day-to-day thing that the Herero people live on a day-to-day basis?
Luckily, the story was already that. It's a contemporary story about something that happened historically and people seeking justice today.
Because it's easy to tell it from a very distant perspective and say, well, this happened at that time. But the fact that you've included those family members and friends that are affected makes it a very personal story.
For instance, so we had the Herero chief, paramount chief, who happens to be an advocate. And one of the interviews he explained they're in fact lobbying a court in the US to take the Germans on and insist that reparations be paid and that they officially acknowledge that this genocide took place. So the story, even right now, is happening. It's it's continuing. It's a living, breathing subject matter.
The reaction to the story internationally.
We premiered at the International Documentary Film Festival Amsterdam, and that was very well received. This is the African premiere. We got so much love. It's hard to distance yourself sometimes because you've been involved with the project so much, so it's hard to see it from a different perspective, but so well received. But as Vincent spoke, it is a tool for lobbying. It's a form of activism and insisting that people know so that the world can insist that people be held accountable for such action.
Final question very quickly, when can we see it? When will ordinary South Africans have access to it?
Today is the last screening at the Rapid Lion Film Festival at the Market Theatre, and I think the screening is at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, so if you're moved by the story, you want to find out more, it's at the Market Theatre at 2 today as part of the Rapid Lion Film Festival. That was Lodi Matsetela. She is a movie producer and was speaking to us about the docu-film she co-produced called Skulls of My People, a biopic that puts a spotlight on the skulls of the Herero people that were taken during the war in 1904. We take an ad break. Take it away.